It's been a long day. And I do want to say that as state representative of Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm glad to be able to make it into this room. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I know there's some 8 representatives from the Oklahoma State Legislature that are off, I guess, and some deserted island in the back where they didn't quite make it into the room. And it's unfortunate that I saw a few chairs here, empty chairs, that I wish some kind of grace, some kind of courtesy would have been extended to the representatives. You mentioned quite a lot that you might want to partner with the legislature, might want to have legislation passed to affect change as it relates to education. And I'm not quite sure the best way to do that is to exclude those members that quite frankly are the chairs of funding, those that actually determine how dollars are spent. Our tax dollars that come out of your purse and out of your pocket and out of my pocket, those are all of our dollars. And they have quite a bit to say as it relates to education. A lot of folks that are career educators that quite frankly, I think, I'm not quite sure you know how much they care. I don't know, but they do. And as do I. I was thinking of the notion of, you talked about folks coming in Tulsa and reading. I've gone into classrooms and read. My aunt is 90 years old, a teacher, past principal. Even, she's gonna be 90 on the September 18th. And she's in schools today, still providing some of the best leadership as it relates to tutoring and reading for free, volunteering. So the spirit that you wish to foster already exists in Tulsa. You got to know that. I do. And I would hope every board member would know that. There are a lot of folks in Tulsa that care. What's unfortunate is the climate that we operate in. When I talk to teachers and they tell me that there's a culture of intimidation that's been fostered by this state board, by our superintendent. I heard you say, don't test me, or you're going to do something. Folks don't need threats. Folks need assistance. We don't need a state board that attacks. We need a state board that assists and understands. And when you talk about Black and brown children in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you all were talking about, you wanted the numbers, right? I think you all know, if you have any sense of education, and you do, or you wouldn't be on this board, that there are issues that go on in larger cities that have to be addressed, right? You don't just say, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 months and you better perform or else. What kind of plan is that? I'm asking. Because if you want the Tulsa Public Schools district to be better, then partner with them. There was no collaboration. There was no partnership. I was just told as recently as yesterday, I wasn't even going to be able to speak. I'm glad that my freedom of speech has not been squashed today. I appreciate that. But there are a number of other folks that wanted a larger room and wanted access to you because we have called you and we don't have that communication. I didn't get the return calls directly to your office. The transparency that you speak of absolutely has to happen going both ways. But when it doesn't happen, right, from the State Department of Education, and we are legislators, and we don't get those kinds of return calls directly to your office, why is that? Why is it that you choose somehow to think there's some segmented kind of education that has to happen between Republicans and Democrats? Children could care less about a Republican or a Democrat. They want us all to work together, and they want leadership, not fear-mongering, not untruths, not name calling, right? And I've said to you publicly that when I see that coming from you, I know you're a father, you're a daddy, you got a family. When I see that coming from you, I've said to you, I'm not quite sure you're fit to serve. Because when I hear teachers that are fleeing Oklahoma, and we talk about the largest allocation ever, we never talk about we had the deepest cuts in Oklahoma as it relates to education. And we've never gotten back on track from that. So yes, we applaud the bonuses and the salary increases that teachers are getting, but let's know that that's not enough, right? When you say you defy diversity, equity, and inclusion, and somehow those words are perverted, what in the world is going on? Cannot be, you guys. Superintendent Walters, when you talk about who's woke, I thank God woke me up this morning, because the opposite of woke is dead or asleep. So I prefer woke all day long. And if everybody doesn't try to pervert that word and understand that we all have tax dollars that need to be adequately monitored, we have curriculums that need to be implemented, but to tell somebody you got 3 months to get it right, that before this previous administration, these issues have been going on throughout Oklahoma, not just Tulsa. You all know that. Don't you all know there are other school districts that have difficulty?
Representative Goodwin, your time's up. I've let it go over because I want you to be able to finish.
Let me.
Yes, ma'am.
May I ask you a single question, because I think it's important. The goals for TPS that I discussed, that first goal, which says by 2027, 60% of the K through 5 kids still can't read at grade level. Is that good enough for you?
So it's not a question of what's good enough. It's a question of what's realistic. Folks that are academicians, folks that do this every day, not just 1 hour a day, a week that you volunteered, folks that do this every day, they understand what can happen. Again, I use my aunt, 90 years old.
Okay.
She's taken some children a mighty long way that could not read, right?
Okay.
But there's a love and there's tutors and there's finances. And when you understand, sometimes public schools are being undermined, quite frankly. When you get monies that go into private school students, and when other students in Oklahoma are told, hey, don't go to higher ed in Oklahoma, that's not productive.
So leaving
Question,
60%, because that's what concerns
no one
me.
said anything about leaving anybody behind. You know, they did that a long time ago, leave no child behind. And I don't care what the motto is. I don't care what the catchphrase is of the day. That's not the point. The point is who is committed, from this board to everybody else, to the superintendent, to myself, to the legislature, who is committed to do realistic goals, but you don't say you turn something around in 3 months. That's not realistic. Had it been able to happen in 3 months, do you really think that these folks that are giving their lives, that are not paid enough, that are going across the borders, right, the lines, going to Texas, Arkansas, not staying in Oklahoma, because they hear words, right, that teachers are terrorists, is that helpful? Is that helpful? Do you want that for your board?
What I want,
we want progress.
I agree. We want kids to be able to read.
To the classroom and tutoring, right? That's not it. But together, can there be a plan that's executable, that's implementable, that's realistic? And you don't say, get it on track in 3 months, or else we're bringing the hammer down. And I want you to know, I'm a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't turn out so bad. They were teaching Chinese then. And I'm going to tell, no, seriously, you guys, this is just getting out of control. This whole notion of what are the pronouns going to be? Let me just say this.
Okay.
We need to be concerned about pronouns, adverbs, adjectives, nouns, real reading, structural issues, right? Not getting off course. I'm just going to ask that I'd like to see diversity, equity, and inclusion honored, because that is America, that is Oklahoma, and anybody that wants to suggest otherwise, that's not right. And I want to say this, when you talk about, hey, these Tulsa kids are getting more money than anybody, and maybe we need to reallocate, that's ridiculous, right? Because we just know that some private school students now are going to get $5,000 to $7,000. I wish in my lifetime, our family was ever offered $5,000 or $7,000 per child just to go to public ed. I would love that. We don't have that opportunity. Y'all want me to leave you? Can I leave one more word?
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for your leniency today. I'm going to tell you this to you guys. When I saw earlier today, the board and the abuse that's been going on in this district, it was like the Stockholm syndrome. It was like they were in love with their abusers. We can't have that. There has to be real collaboration, you guys, with everybody here to really do something good. And I appreciate the time. I'm leaving. I want to say this. We'd like to get calls back at the legislature when we call you. We really think that's important. Like I said, we're back in that back room over there. I'm just glad to be amongst the chosen. And I think that I will tell you this, that Martin Luther King talked about education. It's not only about education, but it's also about culture. Culture is not a bad word. Culture is about achievement. Culture is about inclusiveness. And then it says, the proper man understands equity. The small man understands profits. That's Confucius. Thank you.